Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The Money Down Pod is back. That's my guy, Sean White. Give him a follow at Dumpster Fire Fan. Myself at Kayvon_sports. So happy to be here on this beautiful Monday morning with you guys. NFL Week 1 is in the books, and we are here to overreact to every storyline out there because that's what this is all about. So let's have some fun with it, Sean. Look, we got to start down in Dallas, man, where maybe one of the worst. Look, Sunday night games are supposed to be some of the most fun games. That was one of the worst Sunday night games I've seen in a long time. It was boring. It was dull. There was no offense, and the Cowboys' offense looked abysmal. But that's not even the big storyline. Not only, Sean, were they the only team in Week 1 to not score a touchdown, they also lost their $40 million quarterback in Dak Prescott, as Jerry Jones said, for several weeks. We don't know what that means, but he's going to have surgery on his hand. Sean, I think that this is about as bad as a Week 1 as anybody can get. The Steelers losing TJ Watt sucks, but they at least won the game. To play that bad on offense in your home stadium and then get the news about Dak, I feel for Cowboys fans, and I don't care for the Cowboys at all, but I actually feel for Cowboys fans today. And my big point is I would be calling the San Francisco 49ers right now. I understand the 49ers have issues with what we saw on Sunday. That game we'll get to that. I would be seeing what I can get for Jimmy G because their season is done. With the way Philly looked and even the way Washington looked, you can't lose Dak for 5 weeks and expect to maintain a level of consistency where then when Dak comes back, you go on a playoff run. It's not going to work that way, man. They're going to have to get someone in here. Cooper Rush is not the guy, or they're punting on the season, and they're already looking to next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to get somebody in too. But if I'm the Niners, I'm not trading Jimmy G to him, to be honest. I'm not trading him to the NFC to try to get another team up there that could be in front of us.
Even if they offered you a first?
If they offered a first, then yeah, I don't think Dallas is going to offer a first for Jimmy Garoppolo.
What about a second?
That's where we're talking more. But again, I don't think Dallas is offering all that, man. He's only out for the 6 weeks. I think they're going to try to weather this, and it's the wrong move.
Long time, man.
They also lost their left guard, which is going to be big time because after watching the Commanders play, I can tell you what, the Commanders can rush the passer. If they can't do anything else, they can rush the passer. So even with Dak back there, that's going to be a tough defense to go up against. We saw the Eagles. They kind of let off the gas in garbage time and kind of really made that game closer.
They looked good.
But they were blowing them out to start with. I think this is going to be a tough division for Dak and the Cowboys really come back from because what we saw before the injury was horrific offensive play. That was terrible offense out there. McCarthy couldn't scheme it up, him and Kellen Moore. The run game was not going. Now, obviously, Tampa's one of the better run defenses in the league, so let's give them credit there. But even the pass game, just that loss of Amari Cooper, we didn't talk about it enough as we should have. A lot of people didn't talk about it at all like that. Amari Cooper was a big-time catalyst for Dak. Dak always felt more comfortable with Amari because Amari knows how to uncover and run routes. Now you have CeeDee Lamb, who's more of an explosive over-the-top guy, and you really see the brunt weight of him having to carry an offense where he's not a possession receiver type guy. He's not that guy right now. So he's more the big play threat. And when those big plays aren't coming, man, this offense is stagnant. So I'm really concerned about the Cowboys' offense with or without Dak. They didn't look like a playoff team to me. And yes, the defense played well, but you can't expect the defense to keep a team in a game that way in 2022 football, the way the offense is leaned heavily. Dallas is in real trouble right now. Real trouble. That's with or without Dak. So I'm curious to see what they do to try to fix some things like that because help's not coming around the door. And if anything, you're losing people. You're not really adding them right now.
Agreed 1,000%, Sean. I don't really have much more to say on it because me and you have never been the biggest Dak supporters in terms of talent. Like, we think that he's always been middle of the pack quarterback. We've always been that. And I think that's what he is, man. I think that the overhype on him, but you're right. With or without Dak, it's a problem. But I just can't imagine them going into 6 weeks without Dak Prescott and not bringing someone else in. Maybe they try and weather that storm, but if they do that, they're pretty much writing Mike McCarthy's obituary for him because he's not going to survive that. And maybe that's the plan. Maybe Sean Payton comes in, but Jerry Jones is older. And I'll just say this, man. See, it's early. We're overreacting. CeeDee Lamb looks like a clear wide receiver 2 to me. He does not look, for everything you just said, he does not look like he can get open enough to be wide receiver 1. Zeke Elliott looks like he lost his step completely. And Dalton Schultz looked like the best offensive player to me. And then on the Tampa side of things, Julio Jones is going to be really good for Tom Brady. Julio Jones and Tom Brady already look like they have a rapport. You saw them talking on the sidelines together after the game. For fantasy people out there, if he's still on waivers, which a lot of people didn't draft him, I would go scoop him up, dude. I like what I saw with Julio and Brady. That offense still has a lot of issues they got to work out, and that offensive line is a big problem. But what we saw in the NFC over this weekend, Tampa's good, man. Tampa's going to be sitting pretty because I don't see a lot of teams competing against them, to be fully honest.
Yeah, the NFC is kind of in disarray right now.
It is.
Really, all the top teams really kind of struggled. Even Tampa, to an extent, struggled that game because you saw the offensive line issues. I know a lot of people trendy tried to pick the Saints, but I mean, good God, you saw them struggle with Atlanta the way they were playing. And we'll get to the Rams later on, but the Rams, that offensive line, we don't want to talk about offensive line play. That offensive line was getting bullied. So then you move on, and it's like, are the Vikings going to come out of this? Like, if this overreaction Monday, is that kind of the thing we're going to do? As for Tampa, they'll be solid. Brady's going to play like Brady, man. It's probably his last year. It's his last hurrah. He's going to try to get out there, win a Super Bowl. He has Julio. If Julio stays healthy, because I think Godwin's going to come back and take some of that target share, but Julio being a wide receiver 3 with Brady throwing to him, that's dangerous right there.
Yeah.
And then you have Mike Evans, who's just Mr. Consistency. Mike Evans, he carried Johnny Manziel through college, never got enough credit for that. He was basically carrying Jameis Winston for all that time there. Never gets enough credit for that either. And now he's been Tom Brady's number 1 guy these last 3 years, and he's just consistently good. He is always one of the more slept-on receivers, to be honest.
Yes.
I got to give Mike Evans some credit. Mike Evans, just one of the better receivers in the league. Torch Diggs that one time gave him the dunked-on head pat. I mean, Mike Evans, one of the best out there. Got to give him props where it's due because he's one of the better players in the league.
Yeah, he is. No doubt about that. But the big storyline out of that game is definitely Dak Prescott, and Cowboys fans are definitely hurting today. Let's move on to that team you were just talking about in the Rams. Thursday night, a lot of people forgot about this game already. There was a clear difference on the field. There was a team in Buffalo that looked deep. They looked deep at every single position. I thought that they were going to have big issues with their secondary. Nope. Allen Robinson and Stafford aren't on the same page yet. Cam Akers is in the doghouse. Something is going on with Cam Akers. We'll figure that out as the season goes on. I personally feel like it was a one-game punishment type thing for something that he did, and the team is handling it in-house, and he's going to be fine. But we'll see. He might be in the doghouse all season. The Rams, from what you just said, is spot on. They have offensive issues, offensive line issues. Will they overpay to bring Odell back just to kind of offset and bring in more weapons? Because Whitworth is not coming back in that door. They have a big, big problem on the offensive line, Sean. And Stafford's elbow might be more than what we even thought because he looked off in a lot of his throws. His timing looked bad. It's week 1. We overreact. And again, what they have on their side is the NFC. The NFC is not good, and they have that on their side. But in terms of Super Bowl contender, as someone that picked them to go back to the Super Bowl, I'm worried because that offensive line looked terrible. And Sean, to be fully frank, they didn't even look like they deserved to be on the same field as Buffalo.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt too, especially as someone that picked them to win to get to the Super Bowl as well. Whew, that's a tough blow right there to watch on Thursday coming out. That offensive line was doing some remedial stuff, man. Just couldn't block anybody up there. And I know Buffalo has a deep D-line. They rotate, so they're always fresh. But, man, Von Miller was having a field day. What a signing by Buffalo on that. Because they're going to keep him fresh. Like I said, they're rotating him in and out. It's not like he's going to be asked to play the whole game. That's a deep D-line. But that offensive line for the Rams, they've got to step up and do something because Whitworth isn't coming through the door, but they've got to be able to hold up and block. Because the only big issue Stafford's ever really had, and you can say this about a lot of talented quarterbacks, you see it a little bit with Burrow and Trevor Lawrence too already with the young group, If they don't have a lot of time, they just want to make a play, and then they'll get picked off. They'll throw bad picks. But, they move on from it really quick. That's the other good thing about them. But Stafford's been that to the highest level. That's what we saw from in Detroit. He'd carry them for a while. He'd get picked on some plays because the offensive line wasn't good enough. The weapons couldn't separate. When that happens in the Rams, it's the same old Stafford, and that's what we saw on Thursday night. Cooper Kupp, amazing job by him getting open. The dude's always open, so at least he has the one target to throw to. I think Allen Robinson and Stafford will build a rapport a little bit.
Too.
I think that's an outlier game. What you talked about, though, is what I want to talk about. I don't know what's going on with Cam Akers. He's clearly more talented than Darrell Henderson.
Yeah.
And he was used in the playoffs last year like a number one back with a high usage rate. And then he had 3 carries. So I don't really know what's happening there. You think it might be the doghouse? It could be that. I don't know what could have sparked McVay to do this. But in NFL, usually if you're in the doghouse, they still bring you out if that's the case. They didn't bring him out in the second half after that struggle of running the ball in the first half. So I really don't know what to expect of that. Any of my fantasy football people, he's an instant bench for next week until I see his usage rate because you can't play him looking at it like that either. I think they're going to need to get Cam Akers in soon, though, because he's clearly the bigger threat in the pass game as well. His pass blocking was horrible when he was in there, so maybe that's something to look at. But they're going to have to get him more involved. I actually want to talk about the Rams' defense. They were getting cooked.
Yeah.
That Rams defense got cooked in the second half.
Yep.
Ramsey got torched, which is very unusual for someone that's seen the majority of his career play. That might be his worst game I've ever seen him play right there, easily. And, Stephon Diggs came to play for sure. But Buffalo's kind of primed to be a Super Bowl contender this year with the way Josh Allen's been playing, with the steps they've taken. I don't even think Buffalo played all that well, and they still blew out a legit Super Bowl contender before the season started. Big props to Buffalo on that.
Yeah. So the Cam Akers thing is fascinating, man, because it's not like the Rams had him as RB1 on the depth chart, dude. So the Rams are like, they kind of lied to us. And in a day of gambling being so heavy, like, I'm not trying to be like that guy, but it's kind of messed up, to be fully honest with you, because it's like we're sitting here expecting it and it's not coming. And I agree. Whatever he did, I don't care. He's got to get on the field because they're not going to get it done with Darrell Henderson. And I thought that maybe we would even see some is it Kyren Williams, their rookie running back, who I actually really like out of Notre Dame. I thought that we were maybe going to see some of him more. And it was just all the Henderson show. And that was really
Kyren got hurt.
What?
Kyren got hurt.
He got hurt?
He played like 4 snaps in the first half, got hurt.
Okay, I didn't see that. He's done
for like 6 weeks. That's what happened to him.
I didn't see that.
Honestly, that if we want to discuss that real quick before I throw to your point, because that's what you're talking about, he got hurt. I think that's the only reason Akers played a snap, dude.
I agree.
I really do. That's so weird to me.
You're probably right. You're probably right completely. So it doesn't make sense. Real quick on Buffalo, I want to bring this point up to you. If you're a Buffalo fan, do you get worried about the way Josh Allen runs, man? This guy takes some hits, dude. This guy takes some hits like Cam Newton used to take hits. And I know he's a big guy. And I'm not ever going to tell someone to not run because that's part of his game. That touchdown, dude, where he reached over the goal line while getting hit, that's beautiful stuff right there. That's stuff that only a small number of quarterbacks in this league can do. But my goodness, he took some hits, bro. And if I'm a Buffalo fan, every time he takes off like that, it's got to worry me. And it just makes me wonder if maybe Buffalo should ease up on some of the running plays that they actually draw up for him. Not the stuff where not telling him to stop running. Like when you need him, escape. But sometimes, man, it's a very tough conversation to have because you never want to tell someone to limit their abilities. But if he goes down, they're done. They're screwed.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. It's definitely probably a worry for a lot of Bills fans when that happens. I think what they need to do is, and I think they're doing it a little bit because you can see his pocket presence progressing as each year has gone on. I think they're going to try to get him to be more of that Big Ben pocket guy as time moves on. But right now, he's just not at that level, and they need him to move to win games.
Yeah.
I think that year 5 for Cam was when he really started to fall apart a little bit physically. and we're year 4 of Josh Allen, I think they really need to take a concerted effort to limit his hits this year and make sure in the offseason he's starting to get even better in the pocket, which he has been. He's done nothing but improve each year he's been in the league. So I don't doubt that he could become a more Big Ben type player. But the Cam Newton thing aspect of it, yeah, he's getting rocked a little bit.
Yeah.
So it would concern me if I'm a coach or a fan of Buffalo. Don't want him to get to hit, especially early. Don't want him to get hit too much early in the season. You really want him to save that ability for later on. But hey, if they got to win games, they got to win games. It's hard to tell a player with his athleticism to be conservative when he just runs people
right.
over anyway. So that's kind of the fine balance that I find on that. But I do think they probably are progressing toward him being more of a pocket guy and maybe rolling him out naturally instead of doing the zone read run plays. But I kind of find that they're going to limit that as time goes on. But that's just part of what his game is right now that he needs to do for them to win.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But one thing we learned on Thursday night is that Buffalo clearly is the class of the AFC. And while the Rams, it's just week 1, but they have a lot of stuff that they have to fix. Let's move on to another NFC team that a lot of people still had high hopes for, and another team that a lot of people were hoping to have high hopes for, and that's the Packers and the Vikings. Things could not have gone worse for Green Bay. And listen, man, I want to spend some time and talk about Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers bugs me, man. The way he comes out after the game and acts like everything is the receiver's fault and it's going to be hard to have patience. Well, listen, man, this is his fault. The reason they're in this situation is because of Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers wasn't so, maybe I want to retire, maybe I don't, Davante Adams would still be here. Davante Adams specifically said he was tired of having to worry if Rodgers was going to be there or not, and he didn't want to have to worry about life in Green Bay without Rodgers. So this is Rodgers' fault. This is Rodgers' doing. And I really believe, man, he is going to have some issues with these guys out there. He didn't trust these guys. He didn't want to throw to these guys. He did not. The running backs did. I mean, A.J. Dillon looked good, but Aaron Jones couldn't get anything going. The Packers looked like a mess. Now, I will remind everyone, they looked like a mess in week 1 last week, but Davante Adams was still there. The defense didn't look as good as I thought it was going to be. The offensive line, I understand they have injury issues right now, but man, they look terrible. I don't know if Rodgers has enough patience, Sean, to work this out and to keep crafting those relationships and make it work. I don't know if he has enough patience to do that.
Yeah, this is a big relax for me. I understand what you're saying on that, but I think the injury issues is really what's hanging over them. And I thought it was going to be a learning curve at the beginning of the season. I think they're going to improve as the season goes on, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think the run game and the pass game will benefit both when those two tackles come back. Because let's be honest, Bakhtiari and Elson Jenkins are two of the best tackles in the league. And just them being halfway, 50, 75% would be better than what they were putting out there against Minnesota. Minnesota, I don't feel as a pressure team gets all that much pressure. They were in the backfield constantly against Rodgers that week 1. I don't think that happens as much once those two tackles come back. The other thing I do want to say, and this might sound crazy to some people because I'm not saying he is Davante Adams. I think the comfort level of having Lazard out there is going to make a benefit by pushing every receiver down one on the run. Then all of a sudden, Dubs isn't your number 1 guy and your go-to to get a conversion. He's your number 2 option. Then you have Christian Watson on the fly routes, more the Valdez-Scantling role. Actually, I believe once Lazard comes back, I think it's going to be Lazard, Tunyon, and then Dubs will probably be the 3 he'd look for in the progression if you're trying to get a first down immediately. So I do think Lazard is going to kind of impact the way that offense looked more than people are giving credit for. He's not going to be Davante Adams.
No.
He's going to impact the offense to where he's going to get some of these important targets that moves the chains along. Aaron Jones will be fine, but I was impressed with what A.J. Dillon did. I think that was big time. And I think you did see a lot of what I talked about before the game. We brought it up on the spot. You saw Dillon in the backfield with Jones getting the motion out. Yep. I think that's going to pop a little bit more once Lazard and all that comes back and they know how to handle spacing. So I'm not as concerned about Green Bay after that performance because I kind of thought that's what was going to happen. I thought they'd have a little more success. The real story is this Vikings offense took it to the Green Bay defense, which is not what I was expecting. This new Kevin O'Connell offense for the McVay scheme, they're kind of slinging it out there. And like I told you on our fantasy football stuff, I think Justin Jefferson will be the highest scoring player in the league this year. And you saw it on display. He was all over the place, moving all around. They had him on drags. They had him on crossers. They picked him open, and he gets open whenever he's one-on-one. So he's going to be dangerous to deal with. This whole Vikings offense, in my opinion, they're going to be dangerous to deal with because Kirk Cousins is playing with some confidence. I kept saying that Dak is a more athletic Kirk Cousins. That's kind of going against Kirk Cousins at this point. Kirk Cousins has ascended a little past Dak on that scale. I really like what this Vikings offense did, which I was not expecting to happen against a defense in the Packers, who I thought was going to be a top 5 defense. Packers obviously have things to work out on both sides, but credit the Vikings where credit's due. They came out and they won a game they were going to need to win if they wanted a chance at the division because they had to win that home game against Green Bay to start the season.
They did. I love the Vikings. I think Jefferson's awesome. Kevin O'Connell is going to be such a breath of fresh air for that team. My one pushback on your point about the Packers is this. I don't think we can rely on Bakhtiari or Lazard because of their past. They get hurt too much. And for me, I'm more counting on them not being available for most of the season than being available. If they are available, then you're right. That should help out a bunch. I just worry with them being on the fence of playing every game. It's going to feel like that's how it is with those two. And then Rodgers just not trusting those receivers enough. I'm not saying that they're going to be like 7-10 and miss the playoffs. They're going to be fine. I just think that Rodgers is in for a longer season than a lot of people thought. But I was completely with you on their defense being a top 5. If they can get that turned around, then they'll be fine. The one thing on Minnesota is if you're a Minnesota fan looking around the NFC, it's week 1. We get it, but that's what this overreaction is all about. You're looking around the NFC. You should feel like maybe you can actually come out of the NFC. You have everything you need. You have a good defense. You have a good defensive line. The corners looked better this year, even though they're young, but they looked good this year, and the offense looked incredible. The offense looked exactly like what we saw in LA last year. If Cousins can keep slinging that ball well, Minnesota has a chance to do something they haven't been able to do in the Kirk Cousins era, and that's special if you're a Vikings fan.
Yeah, completely agree on that. You want to move it on to let's move it on. I want to talk this 49ers Bears game because that's getting a lot of headlines.
Yeah.
And honestly, it aligns with my take, but I'm not going to go that way because you can't judge Trey Lance on this game, in my opinion.
Not fair.
And if everyone wants to listen, I'm the resident Trey Lance hater. I'm one of the guys that all the fans try to defend against on Twitter. I'm one of those guys. I don't judge Trey Lance at all in this. He did have some inaccuracies that I thought he would have. Man, that was some terrible weather. And if you want to talk about Justin Fields outplaying him, Justin Fields had 2 blown coverages that he threw to. He didn't play that well other than that either.
Yeah.
It was kind of, as Twitter was throwing out there that wasn't a Bears or a 49ers fan, it was kind of a mid-off, and that's what it was. They both played kind of a very average football, but you can't take any sweeping takeaways. This is why I'm not going to be overreaction Monday guy on a player or a team. The 49ers are still good. They still have a ton of players. They'll be fine. Elijah Mitchell getting hurt does hurt them because I think he's the most special back they had out of that. And he was running very well before that happened. But Trey Lance is going to miss some throws like that. I told you that before the season. Trey Lance is going to have some issues. The thing that would worry me, and this is something that you brought up that I didn't even bring up. I talked about them changing his throwing motion in the offseason, and you were very against it.
Yeah.
I mean, more so against it than most people that really care about the 49ers. Most people want him to do that.
Yeah.
Did you hear his post-game press conference?
I did not.
He said on his missed touchdown throw that the guy was wide open on. I'm just blanking on his name, but he was wide open.
Yeah.
He said his issue was he was trying to throw a perfect pass instead of just throwing it to him. That's the type of mental stuff that you brought up that was worrying you. That could change a game right there. Because if he just makes a normal pass, just throws it to him like a bullet, honestly, that's a touchdown.
Exactly.
Instead, he's in his head trying to make a perfect touch throw to him, trying to throw the spiral. That is something to watch, Trey Lance. You need to get him out of his head. But I can't make any sweeping takeaways on this. I mean, hell, the Jags on their one win 2 years ago beat the Colts week 1. It's week 1. So people struggle. But I don't think this says anything about both teams because the weather played such a huge factor. Credit to Justin Fields for pulling the game out, though, and making the 2 big throws to wide open people that he needed to make to win them the game.
Yeah, I can't take anything either. I didn't love what I saw from either QB. First of all, I've never seen standing still water like that. I mean, I've seen rain games before. I've never seen standing still water on a field like that. Like, does that field not absorb? Does it not like have something below where it sinks in the water? I just never seen something like that before. That was absurd. I can't take anything away from it either. But the thing you said about the press conference, that worries me, man. That worries the hell out of me. And they didn't have Kittle. They'll get Kittle back. Debo looked good for what he could do in that water, at least. The Mitchell thing to me is a serious big deal because even though Kyle Shanahan's great with running backs, Mitchell's special, man. He has something about him that can play. That's not good. That's going to make Debo have to play more in the backfield. It's going to take him away as a receiver more. That's going to be a big issue if he's out for a long period of time. And then I also will just say this. I saw a lot of Bears fans thinking, oh, look, we're going to be way better than a lot of people think. I still think the Bears are going to be a really bad football team. I just don't like anything they have. I like Justin Fields. I'm a big supporter of him. I just think that this game was the weirdest game you're possibly going to get for week 1. With that being said, the 49ers got to get things straight immediately because if they start to play like that on a normal day, then, Sean, we're going to be standing up here and you're going to be able to say that you were right. And I'm going to be able to say that I'm starting to feel really bad about my Trey Lance take. I need to see improvement right away, and we're going to have to see what happens in week 2. There's no doubt about that. Let's move on over to the AFC. Let's move over to we just got to do this quick because both me and you were totally right about this. The people that tried to say that Pat Mahomes was going to fall off because of Tyreek Hill do not understand football, and they should just stop watching. They should just never watch football again. That man is a whole class above everybody else in the NFL, Sean. Everybody else. He was incredible, dude. And I actually think that they are going to be the best Chiefs team we saw in a long time. You predicted them to go to the Super Bowl. That's looking so good right now because they honestly made things simpler for Mahomes. They just went to Reed went to more of a tight end offense. They didn't do all these RPOs and stuff like that. They used Clyde Edwards-Helaire finally in the right way, which I've been wanting them to use. I honestly think that they're going to be better this year, man. I was so impressed. We both saw this coming, but even I didn't know it was going to be that good that early.
Yeah, Mahomes, people got to stop doubting him, too. And by the way, PFF has got to stop grading him as like the 8th best quarterback every week.
I can't.
It does nothing but fuel him. It's kind of crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what PFF's watching on stuff like that, but their grading system for quarterbacks is clearly off because he missed 9 throws on the day. He was 30 for 39, dude. 5 touchdowns all through 3 quarters. He's insane. He's on a different level. Pat Mahomes is the guy. And if you're saying another quarterback's better than him in the league, I don't understand that at all. People thought he had a bad year last year and was better than most great quarterbacks' best years. He's one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. Got to stop giving him fuel, man. Quit voting him so low on these top players lists. Quit putting him there. You're just fueling the guy at this point. Yeah. But they came out and they ran stuff like they always do in September. Andy always has a bunch of plays he's ready to throw out that week 1. They came out, they played a different brand of offense, more of a Donovan McNabb type offense you saw with Reed and the Eagles back in the day, where they had a speedster and it was Deshaun Jackson, but they weren't force feeding him the whole way. And then they just used Kelsey in the middle of the field. This offense is going to be tough to stop like usual. It's just less complicated now, and they don't have to worry about going to one guy as much. It honestly does make it easier on Mahomes. You have any takeaways on Arizona's side, or do you think that was just a lot of injuries and a lot of offseason noise, or do you have legitimate concerns from what you saw on that side?
I'm not concerned with Arizona. I was someone that wasn't as down on Arizona as everyone. I just think that they ran into a buzzsaw. I think this is what the Chiefs are going to do to a lot of teams this year. Now, I'm pretty sure they play the Raiders in week 2.
Now they play the Cardinals?
The Cardinals.
Oh, I thought you meant the Chiefs. I was about to say. Okay.
No, the Chiefs play the Chargers, which is going to be awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Cardinals and the Raiders play. That's going to be a must-watch game for both teams because both teams are going to need to win that game, especially the Raiders, because you can't get down 0-2 in that division. But if they play like that again in week 2, then I'll have some worries. But I'm a believer in Kyler, man. I still really like him as a quarterback. I think that they're going to be just fine. Now, the one thing is they traditionally have not done well without D-Hop. That's the one thing where if you're a Cardinals fan, maybe you're a little bit worried, but I'm not worrying too much about them right now. Anything you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, I agree on that. I think you're not going to stop the Chiefs week 1 of any season.
No.
That's just Andy Reid in general, and now with Patrick Mahomes. Week 1, you just almost chalk the L up. That's just what happens. I do like what you're saying about Kyler. I want him to come out and have a really good game next week against the Raiders defense. It's kind of torturable too.
Yes.
Man, if the Raiders start 0-2, that's going to be very disappointing for a fan base that feels like they're kind of right there at that group. But they kind of just they just didn't put in the
effort. Looked bad.
Carr was bad in that game. So that's something to look for going forward. This is going to be a huge matchup in 2 tough divisions between them 2 next week. I can't wait to watch that. Like you were saying, we can move on now.
Yeah. So speaking of the Chiefs and the Chargers, we'll break this down later on when we look ahead and do our picks and everything. Herbert looked incredible, man. Justin Herbert, it looks like he's ready to be an MVP this year. He looks so good. I think that the Carr played terrible and they still had a chance to win the game. That's good news for the Raiders. But I think that the Chargers, we'll see what Denver does tonight. I think the Chargers and the Chiefs might be a standalone in that division.
Yeah, I feel like they're a little bit above the other one. And it's mostly based on quarterback play. I mean, it's 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Let's call it what it is. And Herbert has a bunch of weapons, so he's going to be fine. Keenan Allen's hamstring worries me a little bit.
Yes.
Got to get Mike Williams involved. He had 0 catches. I mean, Herbert was spreading the ball around to everybody. They're going to be okay. That's going to be a good game on Thursday that I can't wait to preview later.
It'll be very fun. So let's do some quick takes here. Are you worried about Joe Burrow and the Bengals at all?
No, not at all. They could have won that game still. Now, I'm more worried about the Steelers after that.
Me too.
How do you have 5 turnovers and barely win?
That's a big issue. I hate what happened to TJ Watt, dude. He looked like the best player on the planet during that game. I don't know how much of that you got to watch because I was kind of going back and forth once my Falcons started to kill me. But he looked incredible, and now with the torn pec and everything, that sucks. What people need to realize about the Bengals, Joe Burrow, this is what happens when you don't play in the preseason. Joe Burrow had a appendectomy or whatever, right? There, he got his appendix taken out. He's still recovering. This is what happens, man. It's like college football. You come out and you play a meaningful game right away. It's tough. Joe Burrow is going to be fine. Jamar Chase still looked incredible. They're going to be totally fine. I'm not worried with them at all. The one team that I am going to already admit that you are right on and I'm going to be wrong on is the New England Patriots. I don't care if it's week 1.
You're backing off after week 1? Good.
I'm out. I'm out. And I want to be very clear on this. And you can debate this if you want. This is not a Mac Jones issue. Like, I want to be very clear on this. Trent Dilford was on Colin Cowherd's show, and I love Trent Dilford. I respect him so much. And he said, anybody that thinks that this is a Mac Jones issue does not know football. And I completely agree with him. This is a ego of Bill Belichick, and I witnessed it week 1 in firsthand watching that game. Bill Belichick is going to destroy this team because of his ego of not going out and getting a real offensive coordinator. The offense looked in shambles. It looked terrible. The defense looked terrible because Bill Belichick, you know why the defense looked terrible? Because Bill Belichick isn't focusing on the defense. He is putting so much time in the offense, and he's not doing what he does best with the defense. He used to just let Josh McDaniels run the offense, and he would make the defense better. He's missing time with the defense. The defense looked terrible. The offense looked terrible. That team is in for a whirlwind of trouble, Sean. You were 1,000% right, but I want to be clear. Mac Jones is still legit. I am not off the Mac Jones bandwagon. He is going to be a damn good quarterback. This is all about Bill Belichick and his drafting and his decision-making.
Yeah, it's not on Mac Jones. And I do want to differentiate because our takes are very, very right here. Like, it's right under. I think Mac Jones is more Kirk Cousins. You just have him in the Matt Ryan level. And I mean, let's be honest, it's not very far
No,
off,
it's
but
not.
one's an MVP and one hasn't.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at on this take. My big issue with the Mac Jones truthers was last year when everyone was just roasting Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields when they had nothing, around him at all, talking about Mac Jones would be so much better because he was playing for Belichick. But this was the perfect opportunity because I was like, okay, well, we're about to see him in that situation this year. And I had to fade the Patriots from the start. You can't put Matt Patricia couldn't coach defense, man. You're going to put him coaching offense. He can't coach his way out of a paper bag, dude. He's terrible at it. And now you have him calling plays. Okay, we'll see how Mac Jones does this year when he has no support system at all. Because it's not going to be on him, but this offense is going to be horrible all year. I'm telling you, it's going to be horrible. So I had that one pegged from the start. And that's all Belichick's ego, man. And I understand you wanted to buy into Belichick being the GOAT that he is.
I did.
GOAT. This is ego driven right here. They're going to get run off the field in some of
these off the field.
It's going to be a rough season for Patriots fans, and it's going to be a lot of people coming for Mac Jones' head because he can't carry. And I'll be the first one to be with you and defend him like I did Trevor and Justin last year. He doesn't have the support system around him to be able to carry a team. He's not that guy like this. You can't do that. So I understand. I'm right there with you on the Mac Jones defense, even though I'm not quite as high on him as you are. Yeah. He can't carry a team like that. It's just a failure organizationally that you're going to see from the Patriots this year.
Without a doubt. You've been fair. You've been consistent on it, and you've been right on it. Sean, let me ask you this. When was the last time we've ever seen a rookie head coach do what they did to Bill Belichick? Never. I understand Mike McDaniel is going to be a hell of a coach. That was a rookie. Usually Belichick owns. Usually bettors are running to the window to bet on Belichick when he's going up against a rookie head coach. And they look terrible against Miami. What are they going to look like against Buffalo? That's Robert Kraft. If I'm him, I'm upset. I am big time upset with Bill Belichick right now. Because not only are you now making me look like a fool, but you're also putting big trouble on our young rookie, your second-year quarterback. And that is something I can't have. So that's a big deal for me. What other any other games you want to talk about? Anything else that really sparked you on Sunday?
How did you feel about Tua in that game?
I thought he was good. I didn't think he was great. I thought he was good. I thought he was Tua.
I think he's going to be Jimmy G. Like, straight up. He played Jimmy G's offense, dude. That's what he did. He's going to kill him in some situation, missing open throws, but he's going to execute the offense, which Mike McDaniel probably wants that to happen. So I think that's where we're at. That's what he's going to be.
I think you're right on that.
Do you want to say anything about the Saints? Because that was a big hype train team. Yeah. You watched the whole game. Tell me how you felt about the Saints. Are they overhyped or are they where they should be? Let's hear what you had to say.
Yeah.
And give me a little bit of Michael Thomas reaction on that because he came back for the first game.
He came back for the first game. Okay, so I'll say this. The Saints, exactly what I said, are missing Sean Payton. Sean, I've watched the Saints up and close for 20 years now, right? Because I'm a Falcons fan. That was the most dull, least creative offense I've ever seen in the Saints era. It was completely different. They had one big play until 9 minutes left in the game when we started to not press on Thomas anymore, and that's when we got torched. When A.J. Terrell pressed up on Michael Thomas throughout the whole game, Thomas couldn't catch a single pass. And then we dropped off the coverage and everything went to hell. And A.J. Terrell's got to take some responsibility because he got torched when he dropped off. So I got to give Michael Thomas credit there. But with that being said, I don't know how you're a Saints fan and you watch that game and you feel confident at all. The Falcons, who traditionally have one of the worst defensive lines in the league, sacked Jameis Winston numerous times, pressured him 14 different times. QB hit him 14 different times. And that's a good offensive line. That's a really good offensive line. And they torched that offensive line. So if you're a Saints fan, yes, you won the game. But how are you feeling good about today? Because from what I saw, there was no creativity. They let a bad defensive line get to Jameis. Jameis looked completely out of sorts. Michael Thomas did nothing. And then 9 minutes left in the game, everything clicked. And that usually what happens to teams when they play the Falcons in the fourth quarter. To me, this was much more about the Falcons being terrible in the fourth quarter than the Saints. Let's remember, for those that didn't see it, go watch the Jarvis Landry catch. One of the best catches you will see. Jameis Winston just throws it up out of nowhere. If Jarvis doesn't catch that ball, the Saints do not win that football game. So credit to Jarvis for making the catch, but that's the difference. One catch like that. I don't know how you can be excited about the Saints after that. That was all about the Falcons just being the freaking Falcons. I'm excited to see Michael Thomas moving forward, but I didn't walk away impressed with that because he was shut down for 3.5 quarters. He was shut down completely, and then he went off, and credit to him for going off, but I think this was all about the Falcons, bro.
Yeah, that was a big Twitter thing. I wanted to get your take since you watched that whole game so closely. Again, the Saints still got a lot of work to do, a lot they're going to have to show if they want to be this dark horse favorite that a lot of people are kind of throwing
I
out
don't
there.
see it.
Yeah, let's hit that other team in the NFC South. Let's hit the Panthers. Then let's hit the AFC South real quick and get up out of here. So let's handle it. Let's go to Baker. Baker had a rough game, man. Rough game out there for Baker. Even with all the weapons for the Panthers, they couldn't get a lot going on offense. They finally started scoring toward the end, trying to bring it back. But the Browns, man, the Browns kind of did what they need to do. And they have a softer schedule up front. If they can win some of these games, they might be sneaky this year a little bit. If they can get Deshaun back and be in decent shape with it, they definitely have the team around it with Chubb and Hunt. You saw a lot of the run game, a lot of the smart play calling from Stefanski. And honestly, their defense, that's something to be reckoned with. Baker didn't get his revenge game, but Baker's going to have to play a lot better if the Panthers want to be this dark horse wild card team that we hear about in the NFC as well, because they were shaky, both on offense and defense, in my opinion.
Yeah, my big takeaways is one, Kevin Stefanski is a genius. Even when everyone knows they're going to run the ball, he still is so good at getting Chubb and Hunt open. Like, you're right about that. That was incredible to watch. My other takeaway is Baker played terrible, but I'm actually not going to kill. I have an issue with the play calling. I have an issue with Ben McAdoo and Matt Rule. They didn't even get Christian McCaffrey involved until later in the game. I don't know what they're doing. I don't like Baker, but and he did play terrible. I think the Panthers have a bunch of issues, man. I think Tepper's got to really revamp this whole organization. The play calling isn't there. The coaching isn't there. The players really aren't there. The defense wasn't great. That, to me, was a big, big issue. Moving on to the South, the AFC South is wild, bro. It's absolutely wild. Like, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. The Colts, you can't be happy with your Colts, but they look terrible every week one. So I don't really know what to take away from it. I thought Davis Mills looked actually pretty good. And then I thought Matt Ryan started to look really good towards the end. I don't understand why any Jags fans would be upset. I think that you guys looked good offensively for the first time ever, maybe. And then Tennessee's in an interesting spot. So you're more knowledgeable about the AFC South. I'll let you go. But my big takeaway is I think any team could win that division. I really do, man. I think any one of those teams could win that division.
Yeah, it's the Wild West out there. I'll start with Tennessee because they won it last year. Tennessee, I think, is a step back team. We've been saying that. Henry was getting rocked. I called that on our when I said the Giants were going to cover for sure. Yeah. And I'm telling you, Wink Martindale has the best schemes for Derrick Henry that I've seen of any defense coordinator. Even though Henry ran for a decent amount of yards, it was on a bunch of carries. Like, it wasn't like he was popping them off or anything. And Tannehill played solid, but Tannehill played like Tannehill, man. You see the same thing from Ryan Tannehill week in, week out. I think Tennessee's going to step back a little bit. They gave up a ton of rushing yards to Saquon Barkley. Credit to Brian Daboll on that, getting him used correctly.
He looks great.
Yeah, he finally looked healthy and used right. I don't know. I don't buy Tennessee being a winner of the AFC South. Everyone's favorite pick for the South was the Colts. They played week one how they always play week one. Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. If the Colts start losing, are we going to get some heat on not just Wright, but Ballard as well?
Yes.
Because I've been big on this Ballard overrated train that a lot of Colts fans actually seem to kind of agree with me about. We don't get a ton of dislikes when I say stuff like that. And even though no one's commenting saying they agree, I think Ballard's finally catching the rep on that. because Ballard just does not draft these dogs that you need in the NFL.
Yeah.
He drafts these high character choir boys, man, and they always get pounded and punched in the mouth, bro. And it drives me crazy if I'm a Colts fan to see stuff like that. Michael Pittman looked great, but that's a Matt Ryan thing. Matt Ryan loves those big receivers,
Yes.
so he finally looks like his potential. But outside of Pittman, they don't have a lot of guys to throw to. And Jonathan Taylor, he had his game. He had the same game. They got to come away with points if they want to make it in the red zone. The Texans held their own. Congrats to them. They actually played above their average. I think they're going to be a little bit better than people thought. But speaking of red zone issues, I got to talk about the Jags right quick. Jags should have won that game, had every opportunity. They threw that game. That was on them. They had Trevor missed a wide open ETN in the first half for a touchdown, had to settle for a field goal. On a fourth down, ETN dropped a surefire touchdown. That would have changed the game. They also missed a field goal that would have been a big difference. Credit to the Commanders for Wentz to actually come back after those 2 picks and then throw 2 touchdowns. Credit to him for kind of getting over some of those jitters. Because honestly, after the second pick, I thought Wentz was going to fold because that's what he used to do. He actually came back out and drove them down and scored 2 touchdowns. So credit to Wentz where it's due. The Jags had offensive line issues and red zone issues, but I think those will get solved. They were in the top 10 on all the analytic stats. It was the defense for the Jags that worried me. New coordinator, got to get it ready. I think everyone is in play in this AFC South right here, even the Titans, but I do think the Titans are going to step back. That's going to be a wild division to watch, so I can't wait to see stuff like that. All the Jags fans panic on Trevor Lawrence. Get out of here, dude. He missed 1 throw and was under pressure all game. Let him cook. He'll be all right. We'll be good.
Trevor's going to be fine. You're an idiot if you're worried about Trevor. One thing about the Colts real quick, Frank Wright needs to start using those tight ends. Listen, Mo Alley Cox is a good tight end. Matt Ryan is really good with the tight ends. You said it about the big receivers. You're spot on. He is really good with the tight ends. You got to get those guys involved because you don't have the receivers other than Michael Pittman. So I'm totally with you. I will be having my eyes glued on that division because I think it will be a very fun division because of how unpredictable it will be. So that's it for the Overreaction Monday. That's it for the first week of the NFL in the books. We will be back later this week to break down the week 2 games and give you our picks, which we all did very well on, by the way. We'll recap those later in the show, but me and Sean had a great week 1 for the NFL. So that is all. That's my guy, Sean White. Give him a follow on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan, myself at Kayvon_sports. Follow the page at Money Down Pod. We appreciate your support. Like and subscribe. And we'll be back later this week to break down week 2 and give you some more picks on the upcoming week. Have a good one.